This is the story of how burnout pushed me to make a radical change in my life and take the leap to build a mobile day trading command center in a van, capable of producing millions of dollars of trading profits, but without being tied to any particular place. This day trading station allows me to take advantage of the freedom and independence that comes with being a day trader and set out on the open road. So join me as I share with you what brought me to the point of building this mobile trading station and come along on the first adventure across 11 states with my 5-year-old son that included 1 concussion and 2 days of altitude sickness in Colorado. This is the journey of building the ultimate traveling trading station. Over the years, I've had many different trading stations, from my humble beginnings in Vermont with 2 borrowed laptops. One was a Mac and the other was a PC, to eventually adding a couple of more monitors, upgrading my computers, and at one point having a trading station powered by 3 computers with 12 monitors. Okay, that was overkill. But day trading, for me, it's always been a symbol of self-reliance. You don't have a boss. You don't have anyone telling you when you have to show up for work, what you have to do. It's just you against the market. So there's no reason I should be confined to having to trade every single day from the same room, looking at the same view, sitting in the same chair. My parents would probably say that I was always a very independent person, wanting to do things a little differently, wanting to do things my own way. And so it probably was always something they expected, that I would take a little bit of an alternative path, that I wouldn't take the path that everyone else takes. I would do something a little different, whether it was to be a business owner, an artist, or, as the case has been, a day trader. Now, I considered many different types of jobs before I sort of stumbled into day trading. As many of you know, my first job was as a paperboy, and then I worked at a gas station, pumping gas. And at that time, I thought about, maybe I could own my own gas station someday. That'd be kind of cool. And then, of course, I did landscaping, mowing lawns. And I thought I could run a landscaping company, maybe do plowing, snow plowing in the winter. And then I thought about ceramics, owning my own ceramics studio, selling ceramics at craft fairs and things like that. And then the trading thing, and having this memory of my friend who had made $16,000 in high school trading penny stocks. The thing for me was graduating college in the middle of a recession. And I think a lot of us who graduated college between 2007 and 2009 or 10, we probably have a little bit of a different outlook on life. We may be a little less trusting that we could get a job in corporate America and not just get laid off, lose it. There's a sense of insecurity that I have, that I feel that I can't really count on anyone else for my income except for me, which is why it's always been important coming out of college that I find my own ways to make money. And so that's when I thought back about my friend in high school that had made $16,000, and I thought, if he could do it, maybe I could do it too. And $16,000, he did that in one trade. If I could do that even maybe just 3 or 4 times a year, that'd be $45,000 to $60,000 a year of income from the markets, trading from the comfort of my little farmhouse in Vermont. That sounds pretty good. Life could be pretty good. And that's how I got started. But over the years, I've noticed a little bit of a shift. What at the beginning felt like an incredible amount of freedom and independence that came with being a trader has actually turned into feeling more and more tied to the schedule and the routine of the market hours, and this trading station right here, which has been the best one I've ever had. So I don't want to travel as much. I don't want to not have the consistency of this trading station and the internet. And certainly I don't want to go places where the time zone is not going to make it possible for me to trade at the hours when I make the most. So trading has become a bit confining. And about a year ago, I realized I'm starting to get burnt out from spending too many hours sitting in front of the computer in this same chair. My back was hurting. I wasn't feeling as good. I was getting headaches, more headaches than usual. And I realized that this isn't why I wanted to become a trader. What appeals to me about trading is the freedom and independence, but my own FOMO, my fear of missing out, had gotten me tied to the market. I knew I needed to do something different. So just like with trading, I decided that I needed to do a little proof of concept. So a year ago, I rented a van, I bought a Starlink, and I set up a mobile traveling trading station with my laptop and a couple of those dinky little monitors, just enough to get me by. And I took a trip throughout New England, with my 4-year-old son. I traded in the mornings. I did a little work on email, social comments, things like that up until lunchtime. And then in the afternoons, we went on adventures. And I felt happier than I'd felt in a long time. Suddenly, instead of feeling like I needed to chase for bigger and bigger and bigger winners, I was content to hit whatever I got that morning, whether it was $1,500, $5,000, $10,000, or even just $500, and then go enjoy the rest of the day with my son and enjoy life. This was freedom. This is independence. This is what day trading is all about. So you might ask, why a van in the first place? Why not just get one of those rugged Pelican cases and open it up and have your laptop and your monitors in that? You could bring it anywhere in the world. You could bring it on an airplane. And you're right. And I will do that at some point. But right now, one of the things that's a game changer is the Starlink. And the Starlink infrastructure right now in North America allows you to have high-speed internet in the remote rural places that 5G doesn't touch. And those are a lot of the places that are off the beaten path that I've always wanted to be able to get to. I've always had a sense of adventure. And in the summer of 1995, I took my first really big road trip with my mother. We left Brattleboro, Vermont and drove nearly 5,000 miles all the way up to Alaska. I remember on August 9th, we were in Montana and the news came over the radio that Jerry Garcia had died at the age of 53. They played the Grateful Dead, and we listened to the Grateful Dead as we drove through Montana. And then we crossed the border into Canada. We drove through Alberta, British Columbia, the Yukon, and up, finally, to Alaska. Listening to the Grateful Dead, building campfires, sleeping under the stars, and even one morning in British Columbia in August of that summer, waking up with snow on the tent. This was an experience I'll never forget. And now today, decades later, I'm a day trader, but I'm also a husband and I'm a father. And I want to give my 2 boys the same opportunity to create these memories and have these experiences that were so transformative in my life. So last summer, as soon as we got back from our proof of concept trip that was a success, I decided to start planning and designing the ultimate traveling trading station, my mobile command center. The heart of it, of course, for internet would be the Starlink 5G mobile as a backup, and then on the inside using 24-inch monitors and a Falcon F30 laptop. I began measuring and taking dimensions of where the computer screens would be mounted in the back of the van, how far apart they would be, what size monitors, what size mount, what type of mount I would use, how far the screen should hang from my face, where I should sit. Should I build a bench? How high should the bench be? What's the bench height? What's the screen height relative to the bench height? What's the desk height? What's the desk size? What's the length? What's the width of the desk? How many computers will I use? Will I use 1? Will I use 2? At home, I use 2. 1 for trading, 1 for streaming. While I'm traveling, 2 computers uses more power. How many batteries will I need to power this ultimate trading station? So as I ran the calculation on power consumption, that then led into needing an auxiliary alternator and using solar panels on the roof to charge the battery bank. It certainly wouldn't be acceptable to be in the middle of a trade and lose power. So while there were a lot of details still yet to fill in on the trading station portion itself, I also began thinking about the vehicle. I've always had a bit of an obsession with the perfect vehicle. The perfect vehicle is one that is rugged, tough, resilient, can be rebuilt, is durable, is dependable. Vehicles on this list in the past have been a 1985 Mercedes W123 with the OM617 engine, a 1995 Volvo 240 station wagon, room in the back to lay, a sheet of plywood, also a mattress, great for road trips, a 2003 Chevy Suburban 2500, and now for the ultimate traveling trading station, a 2022 Mercedes Sprinter 2500 4x4 170 extended. 2022 being the last year they offer the bigger 6-cylinder diesel engine. The new model year will have a smaller 4-cylinder engine with a bigger turbocharger. I think it's an engine that's going to run hot. I suspect it'll be underpowered for a heavy build. And the 170 extended because being 6'2", I can't sleep widthwise in the van. I sleep lengthwise and I need that extra length from the extended. But there's a problem. There's not many 2022 Sprinters left because I'm not the only one that wants the last year of the big engine before the new model year comes out in 2023. So I have limited options and I need to move fast. Fortunately, I was able to find a 2022 model spec for sale in Colorado The dealer did have a markup on it. I paid the markup, but I asked if they would store the vehicle until I found a builder that could help me finish this project. So with my plans fully drawn, I reached out to a few builders across the country to see if I could find someone who could help bring this vision into reality. I met Luke and Andrew from Ross Monster Vans in Longmont, Colorado, and we worked together to complete the design details, create an estimate, create a spec sheet, and they built out the van between April and May, which allowed me to go pick it up in June. On June 2nd, my trip to Colorado to pick up my ultimate traveling trading station began. What I didn't know at the time was that I was about to have one of the most intense experiences of my life. My traveling companion for this trip was my now 5-year-old son. We flew to Denver nonstop from Bradley International Airport in Hartford, Connecticut. We got up at about 5 a.m. to catch the early morning flight, and because of being up late packing and just being so excited for the trip ahead of me, I didn't sleep more than maybe 3.5 or 4 hours. And although some might question flying across the country and taking a 25+ hour road trip with a 5-year-old, I was excited about it. There wasn't a part of me that was nervous. I knew that he would do great. And just like with the van, I set myself up for success by preparing lots of places that we would stop along the way and making sure I had my bag of tricks ready to go with Legos and different things he could play with in case he started to get restless. There was a part of me that was wondering how many times he would ask, "Are we there yet? How much further?" And if maybe he would ask in the first 20 minutes of this 25+ hour drive. But I pride myself in being a very patient person. You probably have seen it in my trading. I'm calm, cool, collected, even in the face of huge losses or huge winners. I can remain very even-keeled. And you would see that at home too, the way I am as a parent, that I keep that calm, cool, collected mentality throughout. So the flight was great. We landed in Denver. We took a 45-minute Uber up towards Boulder to the warehouse where Andrew met me. And we arrived around noontime Mountain Time, about 2 p.m. Eastern. And I'm telling you, the feeling as we rolled out of town, put on the Grateful Dead, and we started to head west up toward the mountains, it was amazing. Finally, this dream was reality. Me and my son beginning the adventure. The only problem was that I was exhausted. It had been a very long day. I hadn't slept well the night before. And as we were heading up to our campsite, we got there at about 9:30, 10 o'clock. But remember, that's mountain time. So East Coast time, it's midnight. So we get into the campsite, we get to the campground, which I now know is at about 7,500 feet of elevation. We pull in, we get ourselves all situated, we set up, and I start getting dinner organized when I notice something a little unusual. I am struggling to pronounce some of my words. Words are not coming out correctly. I am thinking a word, but I can't say it with my mouth. Of course, this strikes me as not just unusual, but alarming, and I'm now alone up in the top of the mountain with my 5-year-old son, wondering what is happening to me. A few moments later, I see across my right eye the silver bolt of lightning. Anyone who suffers from migraines knows what I'm talking about. I can only see out of my peripheral vision, and I am now in the midst of an intense migraine. I have my Nurtec medication. I had already taken that earlier in the day because I had a migraine from the flight. So now I take my rizatriptan, which is another medication I have for my headaches, and I sort of sit back as the headache takes over. I'm exhausted. I'm disoriented. I'm having the most intense migraine that I've ever had, and I've been getting migraines since I was a teenager. And it's just me and my 5-year-old son. Now, I spoke with someone who said this is very common, that the altitude will trigger these headaches. And it's also going to make it hard for you to sleep. So you're tired, but you're going to have a hard time sleeping tonight. I thought about driving back down the mountain to get back down to just even 5,000 feet of elevation, but it was pouring rain. I still couldn't see well, and I was exhausted. I needed to try to get at least a little bit of rest. So this was a pretty intense experience for me because it reminded me of when I had gotten my concussion in 2018, when I had lost consciousness, and then when I woke up, I didn't know where I was. I didn't know that I was married. I didn't know where I lived. I mean, I didn't even know what I did for a living. Like, I was a blank slate. I really got my bell rung on that one. And that was scary, naturally, because I knew something really intense had happened and I didn't know what was going on. And I, got an ambulance ride that day and got the brain scans and stuff like that. Anyways, this felt similar because of the confusion, this disorientation, the inability to kind of speak, and even the speaking, I felt like words didn't sound right. Even when I was thinking like the names of my kids, I was like, that doesn't sound quite right. So it was pretty intense, which I guess it was a mild form of maybe altitude sickness plus the migraine issue that I already have. And so it was a pretty intense experience. It was not the best way to start the trip. So although I didn't sleep well, I did get a few hours of sleep. And in the morning, we got up, we drove down the mountain. And at that point, I just said, you know what? I'm ready to go to Kansas. So we drove through eastern Colorado. We drove away from the mountains. It got flat. My headache was still present, but I was taking my medication. It was back under control. I no longer felt like I needed to go to the ER. We got through, and once we got into Kansas, we pulled over into a cornfield, camped out, and I set up my Starlink, went to bed. That was Sunday night, and I was like, we'll wake up Monday morning, get a good night's sleep, and I'll be able to trade. So Monday morning, woke up, traded, used the Starlink in Kansas, and then right away got in the front seat and started driving east towards Missouri, heading to St. Louis. So the reason we were heading to St. Louis was because I got tickets to see the Dead that night. Now, the Dead was on tour and they were going to be going up to Chicago that weekend. And I didn't want to bring the van up to Chicago, so I thought St. Louis would be good. And then I knew the tour was going to bring them back down to Cincinnati, Ohio, then to Pennsylvania, then to Saratoga Springs, New York. So I thought I could skip Chicago, but then pick back up in Cincinnati, Pennsylvania, and Saratoga Springs. So we were able to get some time driving. It was a pretty long drive from Kansas to St. Louis. So we got some nice time on the road. My son kept himself busy with his Legos. He was having a great time. He was enjoying it. I was feeling so much better, and I was excited for the concert. But what I didn't expect was that I was going to get a concussion that night. So there was a ton of traffic getting into the concert. But once we were in, we got ourselves situated with the other vans and the other RVs, which was a nice little area. And I started going around putting up the window curtains for privacy while we were in the concert. And I put up the driver's curtain, which is magnetic. But being in a hurry, I put it up and then I swung my body around to go grab the other curtain. And I slammed my head into the corner of the cabinet. I estimate the speed of impact to be at least 8 miles an hour. I was moving quick. That's just a guess. I saw stars. I felt this tingle go down my back and I dropped to my knees. But I didn't black out. I looked around. I still remembered everything. I still knew what time of day it was. I still knew I was a day trader. Okay, good. I think I'm okay. Now I put my hand on my head. Is my head bleeding? Yes, but only a little bit. Okay. So let's grab some ibuprofen. I'll check back in on this later. For now, it's time to walk around the vendors, walk around Shakedown Street. So we head out, me and my son, and we start walking down and talking to the vendors at the concert. And these are people who are living life on the road. And so I'm really curious to hear about their perspective and to get a better sense of what this life is like for them. So that morning I had made about $300 trading, which for me is a very small green day, but nonetheless, it's a green day. I always feel good about small green days. Those add up over time. And I thought, okay, this is kind of interesting, make $300 and then go to a show. And so as I was talking to the vendors, I was thinking about, I wonder what their daily goal is. How much are they trying to make? Because they're going from show to show to show to show. So what I realized is that some of them are making thousands of dollars a day at these shows, selling the different things that they've got. Now, some of them are selling jewelry, they're selling gems, some of them are selling food, patches, stickers, t-shirts, clothes. They've got all different things that they're selling, but they don't work every single day. So they only work on the days when there's a show. And so they're obviously only also working during the seasons when the bands are touring. Now, a lot of these bands are touring in the spring and the summer, the fall, and then they do a winter tour as well. So to the extent that they're able to do this year round, I'm not exactly sure, but they definitely have a bit of a nomadic life. The thing that I found kind of interesting, with trading, you might think I wouldn't fit in very well at a dead show. I'm someone who trades stocks on Wall Street. That's not, a hippie type of thing at all. But I don't work at an investment bank. I'm not an institutional trader. I'm a retail trader. So I feel like I am on the alternative path, just like these guys. And yes, it does take some startup capital to start trading, but it also takes startup capital to be a vendor. Some of these guys, they've got their van, they've got their food truck, they've got their equipment, they've got their inventory. So all of these things do require some degree of startup. And for them, the business model is really surrounded around enjoying life, enjoying every single day. They are not tied to a 9-to-5 grind. They may not be thinking a lot about, contributing to a 401k or, some kind of pension fund or something like that, and then being able to retire at 65 years old. But you know what? We never know what's going to come. My father died at 61. His father before him died at 61. None of us know how long we have to live. So I have a little bit of a hard time getting on board with living so much based on deferring enjoyment till later. As I walk around talking to these vendors and seeing these people here, I feel like I can relate to them so much more than maybe other people in the world, because I feel like they share a very similar life of being on an alternative path. These guys, a lot of them seem really happy. And you know what they have? They have freedom and they have independence. They get to choose the path that they're on. And each of them in their own way are business minded. They're entrepreneurs. They're creating their source of income. They're not entrepreneurs in the sense of Silicon Valley startup, blah, 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 but they're business minded people. And I love that. They're self-reliant in a lot of ways. And I love that too. In total, we spent 12 days on the road traveling through 11 different states and giving the Ultimate Trading Station, my mobile command center, its inaugural run. I have some tweaking to do. I have a couple of things that I want to customize, that I want to adjust. I have to fix the mount for the Starlink, and I have some time to do that over the next 4 to 6 weeks before my next big trip, where I'll leave Massachusetts, go up through Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, and up to Canada. So this trading station will be my home while I'm on the road, and you'll be able to tune in while I'm trading in the back. I'll be live streaming, both of course to Warrior Pro members, but also periodically to YouTube. One of the really nice things, and I'm so fortunate for this, is the Starlink, the ability to have high-speed internet. So not only can I download the market data, but I can upload and broadcast from anywhere these wheels will take me. I got into day trading because I was looking for an alternative to the beaten path. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to carve my own path. I was an independent person, I still am, and day trading was the thing. It was the vehicle that allowed me to produce a little bit of profit at that time from my little farmhouse in Vermont without having to be tied down to a 9-to-5 job or dealing with a boss always looking over my shoulder telling me what to do. Day trading is about freedom, it's about independence, it's about living life on your own terms, and this van allows me to take all of that to the next level. So I hope you'll join me in my adventures in the ultimate traveling trading station.